Hello there. Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Knocks to Nuggets. My name is Oluwayomi Ute, and it's such a joy to come your way this beautiful Monday morning. How are you doing? How was your weekend? How have you been? How have you fared? How much of all that you are learning are you putting to use? I'm sure that we are adding value to you, and we trust God to continue to add value to you. The ultimate aim is that all of us are better and our world is better because we came. So, last week was Valentine. That reminds me, hey, how did you enjoy your Valentine? I had fun. Starting from this program, Understanding Your Love Language, I just had a blast. And then I got a mystery cake. Oh, now don't guess where it is from. You're going to be wrong. I got a gift. I got this cake. So yummy. I rounded off the day from lovely breakfast to an awesome lunch. And then I landed with a cup of coffee and this cake. Trust me, it was wow. Did I get your mouth watering? Don't worry. Every day is Valentine's. So if you didn't have so much fun last Monday, give yourself a treat today. I'm so excited that today we are back exploring the world of work. Now, you recall last month we were talking about achieving your goals, and we talked about career goals, and we just couldn't have enough of career goals. So we decided to have a part two. Rather than just having part two, achieving your career goals, let's do it differently. Let's talk about exploring the world of work. It's changing so fast, is amazing. What was last year is no longer what is today. Things are changing so fast. The required skills are also changing. But are we disadvantaged? I don't think so. We're at a time when people are suddenly afraid. I hear people saying, better hold your job tight. Technology is going to take it from you. I hear people saying, AI is here and people will lose their jobs. So the fear of losing your job is just there, is so strong. And many people just think that the fact that you don't have you because in an environment where technology is getting more of the everyday thing, you are probably going to lose your job. So technology is an enabler. Yes, thank you, BMG. So what we need to do is to position ourselves to take advantage of it. So what are we saying? Fear not. Don't lose hope. Don't get tied up to technology. I heard a story recently. I was on a program and the facilitator was talking about the impact of technology. And he said something that caught my attention. So they went somewhere to train, and they trained in a particular system that was supposed to make the work faster and better. So when they completed the training, they ran people through the test run, and it went perfectly well. So they deployed. And after they deployed, guess what? The system was not working again. And they brought back the consultants to say, the system you just deployed is not working again. So they came back and they began to interview every of the users one after the other and found out the thing is actually working. So then the question is, it's working. Why are you not using? Said, no, it's not working for us. And the guys were like, now, what do you even mean that is not working for you? And they began to interrogate the process. And later they said to them, you know what? This system will work if management would promise that nobody will be sacked. And the consultant was like, what, really? It wasn't meant to take your job. Said this will make this job faster. It will require less people to get the jobs done. So what that means is, assuming 10 people are doing the work before, and now 4 can do it very well, 6 people will be laid off. So for the sake of those 6 that might be laid off because of this technology, we will not deploy. So they had to go back to the management. The consultants had to go back to the management and say to them, we have met with your staff. We realize as these things work, but the challenge why it's not working is that they have a fear that it might get them out of jobs. So we need a promise that you are going to ensure that nobody loses his job by reason of this technology. So management had to sign, and they did an agreement with the employees that nobody will be sacked because of this technology. And guess what? It worked. The system began to work as if nothing happened. And they gained speed, they gained traction, they got faster results. And everybody was wondering, so why didn't this thing work before? Only one reason: the people were afraid of losing their jobs. If you have been on Knox to Nugget in this last 3 years, one thing you must know is that you should get to that point where nothing scares you. My guest this morning, oh, it started off with us and is continuing, is a strategist, is an expert in corporate governance, is an expert in change management and culture transformation, is a coach, is an HR strategist and an organizational design expert, is a performance management expert, and also a guru at learning and performance. My guest this morning is no other person than the lead consultant, Goldwaters Consulting. Please receive with me on the Knox Nugget platform, Babatunde Bamgboye. Hey.
Thank you very much, Ma, for the opportunity to be here again. I'm so pumped up, to share my experiences and some thoughts with us today. So I'm so excited. Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, and thank you so much for accepting to come. I don't take it for granted. Knowing your schedule, I'm not taking it for granted at all. But I'm going to just cut the chase and just let you go. Talk to us in your way, and I'm just going to leave you for the next 15-20 minutes on this topic, exploring the world of work. Over to you, Tunde.
So I was saying that before the turn of the century, Peter Drucker said something very important. The 3 C's were: number 1, he mentioned that we're in an era of overwhelming complexity. Number 2, he said that we're in an era of tremendous competition. Number 3, we are in an era of accelerated change. And when you think about these 3 C's in the light of what has been happening over the years, you can see that today's business environment is very complex. We can see that we are in an era where there's serious competition with different brands and different organizations. You can see what is happening in Nigeria, how fintechs are disrupting the financial space. Just the other day, we saw that Flutterwave got a Series D funding over $250 million, making them one of the largest startups in terms of funding in Africa today. So we can see that. We can see there's accelerated change. We can see that change is changing, and it is changing in our lifetime. The 4th C that I mentioned, which is so critical, that speaks to this era, is the era of exponential convergence, which means that today's worker must have a startup mentality. And what I mean by startup, I'm saying that an individual that is consistently iterating and being agile and being responsive to today's market reality. In other words, you can't have a static career plan, because your career plan in itself is consistently evolving. So that is why I said that you need to have a startup mentality. And this concept of startup mentality is not unique to me. It's actually what Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, he pushed that. He wrote a book called The Startup of You. And his argument is what I'm actually saying, which I totally agree, especially as it relates to what is happening in today's climate, or in the context of our conversation in the world of work, which is you need to have an agile, a more responsive outlook in shaping your career. In other words, a key word which has now become very popular in today's lexicon is to pivot. The ability for you to understand what your industry requires vis-a-vis what the arena is demanding. So your industry may be saying one thing, but your customers right now that you're probably not considered are saying another thing. In other words, your customers require certain skill sets for them to be served appropriately and more efficiently. So it's important that you have this at the back of your mind. So let's think very quickly about 3 things that I think that are very important that speaks to one thing. Now, I will start with the one thing and work backwards. The one thing that I feel is important is this thought about having a competitive advantage. Now, when I say competitive advantage, what we're simply saying is that how can you leverage in terms of, if you think of yourself as an organization, right? Babatunde organization, what do I have that can give me a leverage within today's world of work? Remember, organizations themselves are evolving and they're iterating the entire processes. They're also trying to figure out exactly how they intend to compete, and more importantly, how they intend to move their assets, i.e., their people assets, to address the very ever-changing customer needs. So that's very, very important. That's why I said you need to think of yourself as a startup, because, for instance, you may have a degree in accounting right now, but the truth about the matter is that, and you're working for maybe a consulting firm or an accounting firm, but your customers right now, their industry and their own reality is changing, and for you to service them properly, it may require that you need to learn some programming. So the ability for you to pivot becomes critical. And I saw a comment, somebody just put a comment there about retooling, and that's a very important. So you hear words like upskilling, reskilling, and organizations are also outskilling. Outskilling simply means that they are looking for, rather than having just domicile talent within the organization, what they're doing is that they're outsourcing it. So now let's work backwards. Now that I said, how do we leverage in terms of our competitive advantage? Let's look at three things that I think are important that you need to think about. So the first one is assets. The second one are your aspirations / your values. And all of these two things must dovetail into what is referred to as market reality. And when I speak about assets, the critical thing that you need to that comes in your back of your mind, it speaks about what you have. So there are two kinds of assets that organizations are looking for. Now, please let me say this to every one of us. You see, organizations need to capture what they call stakeholder expectations. It is those stakeholder expectations. What I mean stakeholder, I'm talking about their customers, regulators, institutional investors. All of these people are stakeholders, and they capture those expectations and turn them into what is referred to employee action. That is, how must we work to ensure we meet all of these expectations across all our different stakeholders? With that at the back of your mind, so it means that if your investor, for instance, is making a requirement of IX that I need to ensure that I'm looking for people who have an entrepreneurial mindset, that understands how to have business acumen, that understands the rigors of the business. It means that for you in the organization, you need to be able to meet those expectations, because whether I like it or not, your organization is going to be tilting towards your investor expectation. So that's important. So assets are two things. We have what is referred to as tangible assets and intangible assets. Now, I'm going to speak very quickly about the intangible assets. When I say intangible assets speaks about the things that you can convert into value, i.e., the competencies, your skill sets. So when we look at competencies, I like to use this acronym, which I think I mentioned the last time, is ASK, which is the kind of attitude do you have, a winning mentality, the skills required to address our peculiarity and our future needs, and your body of knowledge. So ASK, that becomes important. So that tangible skills, that intangible skills is what brings, which is what you refer to as soft. But those soft skills, it has the capacity to bring to the organization future earnings. So you need to understand, what are those assets, intangible, that I have right now that will guarantee my organization current organization or prospective organization future earnings. But before I move a little bit forward, is to also ask you, before you start talking about assets, you need to also have clarity on what the why of work is. Work is a very important thing. So I'm saying this to all of us, and this is key, because when you understand your why, Friedrich Nietzsche said that when your why is understood, your how. So why? Because you need to have meaning. I'm going to explain that. It's such an important point. You need to have meaning, and I'm going to talk about that much later. Okay, so I just want to just quickly drop that there, so that I don't sort of forget. So your assets, so your intangible assets. So what are those intangible assets that guarantees your organization future earnings? That is something you need to write down. Now, apart from that, so listen to what I've just said. So I've said future earnings. The question now is that if you know what those assets are, how are you communicating them? How are you communicating those assets? And this becomes important because the way you communicate this is so important, because not only does it accentuate your core, what it also does is that it speaks to the inherent capabilities of the organization. I'll say that again. This is such an important point. You see, because what organizations try as much as possible to do is that they build capabilities. Now, please don't, I'm sorry for throwing out words, but I just want you to understand this, the speak of today's work. Organizations have what is referred to as capabilities. A capability in the light of an organization simply means what gives them leverage. And one of those important leverage is their people assets. All right. Yeah. So if their people assets is for them an organization that is into customer service in a service industry, it is about responsiveness. It's about speed. Speed is an organizational asset for them in terms of capabilities. Then it must be for you as well. Does that make sense? Yeah. It means that you, as part of your assets, which is intangible, the ability to respond to customer queries must be fast. That is, your responsiveness to creating value within your organization must be key. So, what is intangible becomes tangible because they can guarantee future earnings in the organization. Now, you know what I'm simply saying. I'm not talking about the future of jobs, about all the necessary skills you need to develop. You see, you need to be able to develop those skills that is relevant to your organization, that will give your organization a competitive edge. And this is important. Now, the second thing that I said about an asset, which is the tangible. So I've spoken about intangibility, which guarantees future assets, future earnings to the organization. We've spoken about intangibility in the light of whatever is intangible for the organization must become intangible to you as well. That is, if the organization is looking for people that can respond to customer query, if they're looking for people who can think outside the box, if they're looking for people who are innovative, it means that part of your assets should be what? The ability for you to be innovative, the ability for you to execute on a whim, the ability for you to be agile. This skill set must be your skill set because the organization must leverage on that to become competitive. So if they can leverage on you to become competitive, to guarantee future and current earnings, it means that you're a liability to the organization. So do you get what I said? So it's not just about talking about technology. And this is the other thing I mentioned, the ability for you, all right, to understand that, all right, and that becomes your essence. But the ability for you to also communicate that becomes important. So the critical question is that if you're going to communicate it, how do you communicate it? The reason why I do XYZ is because I have the right skills, because I have, I'm a great executor and driver of organizational imperatives to generate XYZ amount for my organization. You need to be able to communicate that. And listen, for you to do that, I want to tell everybody, go on your LinkedIn page and communicate. What is your essence that you can communicate to the world? And truth be told, if you are going to become relevant to your organization, you need to be able to communicate these assets. What is your purpose? And that is why I said that the why of why you've joined this organization must be clear to you. You know, Simon Sinek in his book Start With Why says that we're so consumed about the what and the how that we have forgotten the why. So why are you working? Because if you don't have a why, if there's no clarity about why you want to work, guess what happens? You know, what as Miles Monroe rightfully said, that when purpose is not known, then abuse becomes inevitable. So for you, when your why is not clear, why you want to do the things that you do, why you want to stay the things that you want to stay, and why you want to stay where you want to stay, then the challenge therefore would be is that you begin to abuse. Abuse in the sense is that begin to complain. You begin to have what people refer to as presenteeism. You know what presenteeism is? Presenteeism is that your body is there but your mind is not. Absenteeism is that you're not even at work. Well, presenteeism is that you are at work but you're not showing up. You're not giving your 100%. You're not generating value for the organization. You're just going back. In fact, like in today's, I don't want to say it, where there's a lot of prostitution, where you use your organization as a leverage for a promotion somewhere else. What organizations are not people? They're not looking for prostitution. They're looking for workplace prostitution. They're looking for people that can add value, people that are clear on their why, and they are communicating the why every day. And how they communicating it, not just in terms of verbal communication, but it is demonstrated in excellence in their work. The second thing, very quickly, is tangibility. When I say tangibility, this is so important, especially in this era of work. You know why? Because remember I said that we need to be agile and we need to have a startup. For some of you, because your why is clear, it could mean that your industry may not be evolving, especially in our local climate. But what is happening in the arena, right? For instance, now, traditional customers for 7-Up would have been those who drink 7-Up. But 7-Up, by the time they pivoted, they found out that they had people in the health industry, right? So it will mean that for some of us, we need to have saved up a lot of money. That's not about tangible assets. To begin to reinvest, like somebody rightfully said in the comments, be proactive about taking some courses that will enable us pivot. So when you know the why of work, you need to be putting some money aside. And the reason why I'm saying, let me give you a good example. So I have one of my mentees who was working in the customer service. He studied electrical engineering. But you know what, a lot of people, you know, he wanted to get a quick job. He needed money. He felt that he was not getting the best that he was getting. So he got a job in the bank, and he was an excellent person, dedicated to work. He was working on the customer service desk. I mean, he grew, he was promoted. I mean, customer service. But it wasn't, he felt that there was so much he could do with his life. So what he did was that he saved money. And the money he saved, he was able to resign and did some courses in product design and, you know, on this line of creating softwares and all of those things. Now, the money he gets, and is working as a freelancer now, the money he gets per job is more than he gets per year. So you see what I mean by assets. So there's an intangible one that speaks to the requirements of an organization. But when I talk about tangible assets, I'm talking about how much have you saved in preparation for the opportunities that are not yet here. Because it will allow you to pivot. Because, for instance, when you can see the trajectory of your industry, the ability for you to position in that reality could mean that you would need to develop certain skill sets, which means that you probably need to have 6 months off the job or even 7 months off the job and be willing to start all over again. The ability for you to pivot quickly is important. That is why you need to have a startup mindset. The ability for you to quickly be responsive. So a friend of mine, for instance, he worked in a particular bank. He was my best man during my wedding. All right. His own was pretty straightforward. He was working in the IT department. But he saw the trajectory of what was happening in the banking industry. In fact, he was given an assignment. And that is why I always tell people, when you're working in an organization, think projects. Think projects. So once he was working on this project for this particular bank, he saw an opportunity. And guess what did he do? He had invested some money. He went to study that thing. Now, his solution services 70% of the banks today.
Wow.
So assets, remember everyone, tangibility and intangibility. And I think this is key. This is important for each and every one of us too. So what are your assets? How are you communicating your assets? Across all your different networks in terms of your digital platforms, most importantly LinkedIn, because of its spread professionally. How have you been able to communicate these assets? What is your because? In fact, Dave already said that for leaders, you should be able to speak about your leadership brand, and he called it so that what? All right, that is, it has to be result oriented. It has to be tangible. All right, so that I am the best person for this organization because I have demonstrated capacity by increasing profitability for XYZ Bank by 15%. Therefore, I can solve ultimate solution. I'm just giving you a broad perspective of what I'm saying. So, how are you communicating your assets? What you bring to the table? This is quickly. Number two is what I refer to as your aspirations and your value. And remember, you remember the three things okay, sorry.
So
you're about to say something.
Yes, I'm about to say something. I'm about to hold you on this thought until next week, because already I'm looking at my page and I'm like, I need to read all of this thing. Because you said so many things that, your landing point was a question I hope everybody would ask themselves. Why are you working? If you are working for daily bread, you might not last. Why are you working? What value are you bringing to the table? What are the intangible assets that you have? And what tangible assets do you also have? And how are you communicating your skills? When you said, how are you communicating your skills? It dawned on me. Many of us have the answers our companies are looking for, and we're right there, and they're bringing consultants who then use us to deliver the answers. And then you're angry that, I'm here. They went to bring ABC from so and so to come and do, and I'm even the one getting it done because you never communicated your value. They never knew you could do it. They never saw it in you. You are enjoying Sarah. Yes,
and that's the challenge a lot of people are having. And one of the reasons why you need to communicate your value is that there are three people, but there's one person, which I think I mentioned, that you need the organization. And this is true. Like I told you the last time, I had the privilege of working with several hundred women plus for the USAD with a group of other consultants. And one of the key things that we spoke about in that training for the US government was about finding a sponsor. And a sponsor is the individual that can speak about you on the table. And this is also based on research, because for you to have a seat at the table, you need to be communicating your value. But there's somebody that should be sort of noticing this track record, which I call credibility of performance that you have, that can vouch for your competence on the table. So you need to look, and it's not about kissing somebody's behind or psychophancy. It's about somebody that can vouch for your competence. So when you are talking about certain things, this person can say, this person, Babatunde Bamgboye, Miss Yomi Ute, has the capacity to deliver on XYZ. Because truth about the matter is that today's workplace, there's a lot of competition for attention. So you need the regulators are competing for attention for your bosses. Customers, HNIs are competing for. So and you are now trying to compete for that attention. You see, you need to move away from what I call from the place of obscurity to the line of sight of your boss. And the only way you can come to the line of sight of your boss is that your boss should see you as a valuable component of you. And that speaks to the why of work. You see, the why of work speaks to three things. Number one, it speaks to one, you have the competence. The next thing is that it facilitates your commitment within the organization. But the third one is so important. It's your contribution, which has to be passion. Are you passionate about what you do? And let me tell you, and when you're passionate about something, it's visible. Are you passionate about coming to work? Like I was sharing with a group of people last week, and I told them that listen, that when you come to work, what you need to do, you have to show up. Show up means that even though things are not going from what you need to show up. A good example was how technology was dealing with us. You showed up, you had to continue talking. This show must go on. And the truth about the matter is that because you are passionate about it, so when you understand your why, it facilitates your passion. You're excited about what you are doing. And for you to be excited about what you're doing, listen to me, everybody. You need to step up the treadmill of life. You know, this perpetual, this proverbial rat race, you need to step off and take back your life. Because the truth about the matter is that between external stimuli and your responses to those stimuli, you have the freedom of choice. You're not a product of your circumstance. You're not a product of anybody. You're a product of your consistent choices. A man, Dr. Leida, was differentiating between burnout and rust out. He said burnout is overdoing, but rust out is underbeing. He said, in fact, it was a lengthy quote which I can't remember, but one of the things he said is that you have chosen the security of a paycheck rather than enjoying your life. He mentioned in that quote as well, he said that you are just maintaining, not living, when he was trying to define what rust out is. Many people in today's work are rusted out. I mean, there's no such word as rust, but you understand what I'm trying to say. You're rusting. Why are you rusting? Because you're on the treadmill. You have motion, but you're not going anywhere. So you need to be passionate about what you're doing. And the only way you're going to be passionate, and that's why the why of work is important. And let me tell you this. That's why I say it is people that will drive technology. So you're going to look for people who are reskilled, upskilled, but you're going to also look for people who are truly passionate. People that really tell themselves that I will keep on. You see, when you're truly passionate, permit me to say this, when you're passionate, then you're willing to do what is required to become the best version of you.
Wow.
H.L. Hunt was asked by the richest man, 2 quotes and I'm done. H.L. Hunt was asked by Napoleon Hill, said, why is it that people are not successful? His response to Napoleon Hill was this. He said, people have not determined what they truly want out of life and are not willing to pay the price. And I keep asking people, what price, Price, are you willing to pay for the price that you seek? The truth about the matter is that everybody wants outcome, and the outcome for working is some form of monetary or some form of recognition, some form of meaningful progress. Whatever your outcomes are, the truth about the matter can only be determined by what exactly you want, your price. The next thing, the price that you are paid. Next thing, they asked Dr. Phil McGraw the same question. Dr. Phil said a simple statement is that we have settled for less. A lot of us have settled for less. And that is why people are not changing. We have come to a place of mediocrity, and we have come to a place whereby we have enjoyed our comfort zone. I want to dare everyone. It's time for you to step off your comfort zone. Look at the trajectory of where work is happening right now. What is happening in your industry and what is going to happen in the future? And ask yourself, how do I position myself for this reality? The next time we come, we'll look at aspiration and value. Then we domicile it at our context. What are the market realities? What are the market realities? One last statement. I keep telling this to everybody. The reason why I started off with the startup is that as a startup, the truth about the matter is that we really do not know how the future will hold. But that is why every day we make daily adjustments. I was reading about Shirley Sandberg, the COO of Facebook, and I looked at her career journey. How did she become one of the most powerful women in the world today? And the truth about the matter was, she started her career, she came out with a degree in economics. And guess where she ended up? She ended up in India. She was working for the United Nations. While she was in India, she eventually became the chief of staff to the one under the Clinton administration. She became the chief of staff to the secretary secretary of state. One of these, what they call it now, is it the foreign policy people? She worked in policy, but she asked Eric Schmidt, who happened to be the chairman at the time of Google, and he said, listen, go into the place where it's fast paced, where you can ride on the crest of opportunities. And she decided to work for Google. Now, note, she started in a not-for-profit, she ended in a profit organization. She worked for Google for 6 years, and she was able to take the most important aspect, which is their AdSense, in terms of Google's business. She was in customer sales, and she was able to move it to exponential heights. She now became the CEO of. So note, the trajectory is never singular. It's never linear. Excuse me. It's completely circular. What I mean circular in the sense that it's always undulating. There's always shifts and turns. I want you to look at your career. So your career cannot be static. Look at what is happening within your space and consistently make those shifts. The next time we come, we'll be looking at how do I make those shifts.
Wow. Stopping you was hard work because I didn't even know where to put the line. 3 things we're going to talk about. And for so long, we've talked about assets, and it's so many things to chew on the assets. Gilbert says, hello. Really tough to stop Tunde. And the value you have brought to the table is huge. I want to say very big thank you. Thank you so much for challenging us to stretch. Thank you for reminding us to do big things. Thank you for asking that major question. Why are you working? Thank you so much, Tunde. Yes, next week, Monday, we are continuing with you. The pause here is on assets. Next week, Monday, we go to aspiration and then market reality. I trust God to help us to do it all together next week, Monday. Thank you very much for coming on this call.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the honor.
See you on Monday.
Yes.
Wow. It's so much to chew on. You know what? You didn't hear it all. It's on Facebook. It's still on YouTube. You can go back to the January edition where we had Tunde, listen to that, then come back and listen again to today, and then get ready for next week. You haven't heard it. You need to hear it again and again and again. And I want to leave you with this question. Why are you working? Whether you're working for yourself, whether you're working for somebody, just why are you working? If you understand your why, you do a whole lot of things differently. And it's my prayer that you discover the why. That when you come next week, I'm talking about aspiration and market reality, you'll have ticked the box of I know why I'm working. So until next week, Monday, never forget it. If you can think it, trust me, you can be it and you can have it. And always together we win. Have a wonderful week. I appreciate and celebrate you. God bless you.